Welcome to another episode of DD on the Spot. As always, I'm your host, Ryan Johnson. And before we get into it with our guest here today, well, first of all, if you're a longtime listener, you should recognize our guest, Katherine. We're having her back on the podcast almost to the year that we last had her on. And she's here to give us an update on what she's been up to. And she's coming to us from Canada. You know how much I love having our Canadian guests on. But most importantly, she's our current guest. Once again, Katherine, thank you so much for coming back on.
You're welcome, and thanks for having me, ZD.
Absolutely. Well, I just told everyone, her ZD on the spot. The name was because I was the designated driver in college. So, yeah, I've told that story a few times on the podcast, but for anyone who's not who didn't know that, that is my whole backstory. So before we get into what this last year's been like, I always love to ask, what is the weather like in your neck of the woods right now?
The smoke just cleared from last week. We were getting a lot of BC smoke, clear Alberta smoke. So it's nice. It's sunny out, clear earth skies, plus 20 degrees. It's manageable.
Oh, I was gonna say thank you for all that smoke because we've been dealing with that down here too, where I couldn't even go on walks at night sometimes because it was just so bad. So was it like that over there too, where like you basically had to stay inside for a few days?
Yeah, absolutely. It was quite tragic too. What's happening? But prayed for some rain. Got some rain. So I just hope, the people in BC are keeping sane with all that smoke.
Oh my God, yeah, I don't know. I do not know what I'm doing up there. But before we depress everyone with our, with our firewalls, why don't you just tell us what you've been up to? Obviously, since the last year that we talked. I mean, I know with COVID and everything, it's been an interesting year to say the least. But what have you been doing?
I've been working a lot, and I've done some pageantry as well. So since we've talked last, I've acquired two new titles, and it just keeps getting better. So
What are the two titles that you've acquired?
last month in June, we did the Miss Calgary pageant again. So because of COVID, we had another opportunity to compete for our previous reigns. So when we first met, I held the reign of Miss Calgary 2020 and went back there. It would have been fun to come back with that title again. Just I think more for ego purposes, defending champ, second reign, second chance. But I came in with Miss Southern Alberta 2021, which is fairly exciting. And prior to that, when we talked last, I mentioned about a scholarship that I had won to go into more of a national title. And interestingly enough, last winter, I competed in a federation for the Miss Alberta title. And as runner-up, I received that reign in January. So that wasn't a let's compete, you win. It was a waiting game. It was two failures to get to that opportunity. So next year I'll be going to Florida representing Alberta, and my platform of fitness and nutrition to keep us healthier and stronger. So to me, that's really exciting.
Absolutely. And do you find that, I mean, because obviously a lot of, beauty pageant contestants, I think, don't really have that much of a fitness background, or at least when it comes to, the bodybuilding aspect of it. Do you find that that's, especially when it comes to a bodybuilding look versus, a beauty pageant look, do you find that is, sometimes hard to sort of find what works best for both of those shows? Because like if you were to go and look like a fully like a bodybuilder, I don't know if you place as well as you might want to not be as muscular as you would for the bodybuilding. So do you ever find that that's hard to sort of find that balance?
I found it really interesting to have a body that I was happy and comfortable with in that respect of toning it down just a little bit, but I do feel like it would be more of an advantage if I tried to kind of, stimulate that pageant look into my overall presentation, because that's what this is about. Any type of stage performance that we do, we want to fit into a role. And I was happy with the work that I was doing. And in fact, I was a little overworked in terms of the office job, that I commit to, and then a growing business on top of that, I did find it really hard to keep that balance of, am I taking care of my clients properly? Am I taking care of myself properly? And on top of that, I had a few other sub goals that I just went for it. There was a point in May where I was going to complete my bodybuilding certificate through ISSA. I was just going to complete it after the pageant. I just wanted to have my focuses. And then I just woke up one day and I'm like, I don't want to wait. I want my specialist in bodybuilding now. Like, why am I going to wait to accomplish my goals? So I kind of ended up burning myself out a little bit prior to the pageant in that respect. But coming down to what I'm comfortable and happy with is my hard work that shows through my eating and my fitness regime. So, at the end of the day, it really is being comfortable and confident in the work that you put into yourself.
When it comes to your training, have you had to mix things up a little bit because of COVID and, the lockdowns, or just, everything that's been going on? Have you had to mix things up a little bit, or are you still sort of sticking to the same training that you were when we last talked?
I did manage to have some opportunities of just going into the gym and lifting heavy. That was my goal. Train with purpose and get that strength, and to really identify like my 1 rep max, so I can continue moving forward. There was a point in my training with lockdowns. I did reach out to a source through the internet, Paul Taylor from Brickhouse Gym in Manitoba. Even I like his style, and I asked him for some help. Really trying to utilize the weights that I had and the bands that I had, and I was really impressed with the amount of hard work I could do with having so little. But I think that's what it's about, is doing the best you can with what you have with no excuses.
No, absolutely. And, for a lot of people that say that, like, oh yeah, you can't get a good workout with just like bands and stuff, I challenge them to do that, because it really does, give a great burner. What is one body part that you think that you've improved on the most over this last year?
With working with bands, I'd have to say my abdominal, my core.
How do you do that with bands? Because I normally would assume that bands are just sort of for like upper body, and you can do like squats and stuff like. So how do you incorporate abs into that? I've never personally done abs with bands myself, so I'm interested.
Okay, that's a really good question, because the lower you have your bands in your body, like to your ankles, the more it's going to integrate your hip, and it's just about that added resistance to working your core. We like to focus. I like to focus on. I have my clients focus on a lot of core integration before we even start our workout. Fire hydrants, kickbacks, legs, um, tabletop position, getting that shoulder complex. Add bands. For me, like, you're asking your core to really just get engaged, get ignited. That's your source of energy. That's your source of power. So why wouldn't you try to focus more on where that foundation is coming from? So the bands do add a little bit more resistance, and it makes you work a little bit harder. But it's that concentration. You have to focus on inviting your core, invite your glutes to every exercise.
Well, one of those things I found that's so fascinating that a lot of people do. Do you ever do like those stomach vacuums or anything like that? Because I've seen so many posts about it now, and I wasn't really familiar with it over the last few years, but now it seems like everyone's doing them.
Yeah, the vacuums. When I first saw it, thank you for mentioning that, because when I first saw it, I wasn't appealed by that. Especially watching people inhale, exhale. I thought it was something that I wouldn't want to do, but it works, and it makes sense because you're contracting those muscles. But so yeah, I am a fan of vacuum. I am a fan of vacuuming.
I mean, that's one thing myself. I had the same exact reaction as you. I was like, how does that even work? I mean, it just seems like you're just like breathing, but then I tried it myself and I was like, oh my God, yeah, I mean, for anyone that, like I said before, for anyone doubts it, give it a try yourself. But nutrition wise, have you been mixing things up with nutrition, or what's that been like?
Good question. It's pretty standard. I love eggs because they're really easy. They're really fast. They're really easy to make. They get the job done when it comes to that energy. And I love rice. Same idea. It's my source of energy. I still drink my spinach and my cucumber after a workout. And I think mostly because it's not only comfortable to have a routine, it saves me time. I also think it's better for the environment because when you go through a fast food restaurant, like you're consumed with all of this, all these bags and extra stuff. And I ask when I do go through a drive-through, I ask them not to put ketchup in my bag because it's just going in the garbage. And it's those little things that we need to be mindful of, I think, with respect to the environment. But my diet, I have to say, I did embrace the openings of restaurants with takeout, but I honestly found at the end of the day, like I was more happy with what I was able to present, put on my table, than the understaffed, forceful openings of new restaurant or of restaurants, right? So hopefully, I get to go out and consume a little bit more of the new adventures that are out, in Canmore and Banff, because I think that they deserve that much. But otherwise, nothing's really changed in my diet. It keeps me on track.
How do you think that your clients have been dealing with the whole COVID? Because I mean, a lot of people have gained that little bit of COVID weight, and they're struggling with that right now. But overall, the people that you've been working with, how do you feel that they've been dealing with, some of that isolation that's been happening over this last year and a half, basically?
They're excited to get to the gym. They're excited for workout routines to meet with me, and that excites me. I love being a personal trainer because I love the energy that's in the gym, but also hanging out and being around people who want to improve, who know that there is a problem, but they know that they're taking the steps to rectify something that they're otherwise not comfortable with. So
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I mean, part of the thing that, I think really does connect, the bodybuilding lifestyle with the pageant lifestyle is the routines that you do and just basically the walk that you do. How similar are they or are they similar at all when you're like practicing either for like your pageant walk or just your bodybuilding, presentation? Do you find that, doing both sports really helps you in each individual sport?
no, they are very they are very different. When I am presented with the opportunity to be a guest poser for the bodybuilding federation, um, different holds, and it's completely opposite from pageant competition. I want a softer look, but I still want to look strict and um,
Well, you're not going to be doing like front double buys in a pageant thing anyway. So it's like, yeah, they are like completely, yeah.
yeah, no, and interestingly enough is that when I'm doing like the supergirl stance, the double biceps, like I look strong and confident. Whereas one of the things that I need to work on that I see from my feedback in the video is still having the structure of someone who's strong but not flexing. Working on my walk for my last pageant was challenging because we had a day to know what the stage was going to look like and the routine that was expected of us. So I'm in my apartment the day before my pageant, and my neighbor downstairs is banging on the wall because I'm being really loud in my heels. And I felt bad, but at the same time, I'm like, this is my livelihood. Like, this is my job. Like, sorry, but I don't have anywhere else to go, and I need to get this done.
Yeah. Well, and you mentioned too, like looking strong without flexing. How difficult has that been for you? Because that to me just sounds like I was like, oh God, that just seems like a whole conundrum in and of itself.
Yeah. Uh, it it's mindset, right? So when I was looking at the stage routine, I was on the treadmill and I'm visualizing in my head, okay, this is what I need to do. But coming up on the stage and doing our practice runs, 3 hours before the actual pageant was difficult for me because, even though we're kind of like walking in a big circle and then we'll walk in a little circle and then we'll go to the mic, it was still kind of baffling. Whereas prior to a fitness model competition, You're practicing your routine weeks before you even get on stage. So it's definitely part of the strong mindset, right? Just be prepared for anything and focus on that visualization when you're not actually on that stage, but thinking about what you're going to look like when you get on stage.
What has your relationship with cardio been like this last year?
Minimum, I bought a trampoline actually, spice things up a bit.
So what does trampoline workout look like? You're just like on there for like 15 minutes just doing some, because I've seen people that do those trampoline workouts and they're fascinating to me, but like I've never even tried it.
Just jump with a weighted vest actually is what mine looks like. add, add some twists and turns in there, get your abs going for sure.
Hey, like as she shows, it clearly does work. And what is the competition schedule looking like? Or when you're doing competitions, I should say before we get into that. I mean, do bodybuilding and pageant, are they sort of in the same time period? Because everyone knows that like bodybuilding shows are more sort of in the summer and the fall. Are pageant shows around that time too, or is it like a nice long break where you're able to like maybe change your look just a little bit in between those two sports?
I love that question because now we've got a lot of virtual competition coming up. People still want to be part of society and they're like, okay, and really embrace the virtual side of things. So next week, I will be in a pageant. It's a virtual pageant. I'm going for Miss Entrepreneur. It's a local pageant here. And it's mainly to get not just talk about my business, but just talk about the importance of bodybuilding and getting stronger, lifting with intention, lifting with purpose, having goals as a person in society. Like, let's work on our goals. So the Miss Entrepreneur is really to embrace fitness and nutrition and just letting people know that it is important, and you start and continue. Coming up in the next few months, I have yet to decide, and it's not because I'm lazy. It's just that realization that not everything can be a first priority, and I think that's the hardest part of maneuvering my schedule. But I do know that I have a client that I'm going to take on stage, and in that case, she really does deserve my undivided attention toward her first competition. So it's just that help that mix, that balance of what what I'm comfortable with in my training, and making sure that she gets the attention that she deserves. Yeah.
And that is so important. And I mean, I'm going to pretend, because I know that one of the tragic things about this is that the general public is so ill informed when it comes to the benefits of exercise. And when you said like it's important to be strong, if someone were to ask you why, like how would you explain that? Because unfortunately, like there are going to be some people that watch us that don't understand the importance of that. So if you were to just explain to people like why is it important to be strong, why is it important to be healthy?
Your immune system first and foremost. Hormones, lifting with a certain amount of percentage of your one rep max really gets the juices flowing, on a hormonal perspective, on a digestive perspective, and you need that extra resistance to ignite what your body needs. And it's more about a preventative approach, as it should be, than ooh, the opposite of that. When you get injured and then you have to go to the gym for resolution, it's like, let's tackle the problem before it begins. And there's so many things that happen inside of us that we don't know, that the answer is weight training or resistance training, if you're afraid of that word. So depending on who my target is, I'll use either the word weight or resistance, because it's not as intimidating to use the word resistance when they're literally just lifting a little bit heavier, or even just getting to the gym is so important.
When you say working on one rep maxes, was that hard for you to sort of maintain that as if you're doing just like band workouts for that time period, or were you just comfortable with like just having the bands really to work with?
I was comfortable with the bands, and I felt that it really helped. develop new programs for people who quite aren't ready to start lifting with dumbbells. They're still getting that momentum, the familiarity of, a little bit of discomfort. Because if you're new to a gym, we have to start somewhere. And sometimes, a 5 pound or 8 pound weight isn't really something that you want to start off with. But, you gradually progress a program once they're comfortable with the movements and getting that range of motion. And next thing you know, my favorite compliment from a client is, I feel stronger today. And they're happy, and I'm ecstatic, and I see them again.
Absolutely. And as we've established before, I mean, you are a very busy person. So when it comes to time management, are there any tips that you have on how you're able to, do all this? Because believe me, everyone, and I don't know, I haven't talked to one person on this podcast who doesn't maybe need some time management help.
Your health is really important. And there have been times when I've been too exhausted to do my next big commitment. And that's not a place that I enjoy being. So making time for rest and scheduling your rest is really important, because the next day or your next moment, you're going to have the energy and the enthusiasm to do what you want to do. Another time management skill is, be organized. Take time out of your day or your week or your month and look at your calendar, your obligations, and your commitments, and really do prioritize them. Like I mentioned earlier, not everything can be a first priority. And it's really important to know that.
Absolutely. And I mean, as someone who struggles with, just organization, I mean, if you could see the desk that I'm at right now, I wouldn't even show it to anyone because I'd be way too embarrassed. But there's just everything just sprawled over. I have notes from other podcasts just flung all over. I have a empty cheer wine bottle, which is a soda basically, and then I have an empty, I just have base. I mean, it is bad. So yeah, I will definitely try to take those into account whenever I have free time to try to get myself at least a little bit organized, because yeah, there have been times even where I was like, God, if I was a little more organized, this would have gone so much easier. But then just the laziness on the other side too. But that's a fight that I'm still fighting to this day, and hopefully I'll get better as time goes on. But yeah, it's
Well, Ryan, I think another note that's important to acknowledge is you got to be kind to yourself.
that's true.
It's very it's very counterproductive to be hard on yourself in that respect when you're doing the best that you can.
Yeah, I know. I'm just one of those stoic Norwegians, basically, where you're just, you just basically just your whole life is just basically all your bad things that you've ever done. But I am working on it though, so yeah, it has been getting better. But in your journey as well, with everything that's been going on, how have you been dealing with this whole unique situation mentally? Because so many people, like we talked about last time, when it comes to just the look alone, they're gonna, like, if you change your look in the gym, they're gonna notice your look, and they're not gonna notice the mental side just because it's something that you don't really notice. But mentally, how have you been dealing with all this? Because I mean, so many people are not focusing on the mental side of everything that's been going on. I think that's something that's going to be impacting us as a society for far much longer than the physical aspects of this.
I feel like the mental aspect is really being aware of who you're hanging out with, who are your friends. Um, yes, I will openly admit that the weekend, so today's Tuesday, and it was the weekend where I was not okay. I had learned that we're postponing my mother's funeral again, and that was really hard because I was really looking forward to the that healing process, that grieving process that comes with a life celebration. My mom actually, she deserves what we had planned for her, if anything. And I was really upset. And I went to the gym and I deadlift. But that's what keeps me grounded. So with mental health, brings us back to that. What keeps you grounded? Grounded. And go back to that. Lifting heavy keeps me grounded. Going for walks along the river with my best friends, that keeps me grounded. Make time for that stuff. Um, yeah, and I've been really fortunate. I've had a lot of friends and family that are just really supportive on that respect. And um, honestly, church is another place that I go to feel grounded and listen to the messages. Get out of my head.
Absolutely. And not to bring back up the wildfires, but I mean, I have to walk at night now normally because of this, because sometimes during the day it's a little too foggy. So yeah, I've been going on walks too myself, and that is, a very, very clearing presence in and of itself. But you mentioned, just going to the gym and lifting heavy. Have you improved on your 1 rep maxes over the last year? Has it been just because you haven't had as much time to work on them? They're sort of the same, or what has that been like in your journey?
I feel like it's more of a determination than um, not. I've been testing my 1 rep maxes with my clients, and I'm like, I want to know mine. I want to improve on mine, and then I can help them improve on theirs. And we've just been doing a lot of periodization with their 1 rep maxes, 65%, 75%, all the way up to the higher percentages to really ignite, with men, right? Like their testosterone increases, lifting really heavy. With women too, right? Like I want to make sure that when we go to the gym, it's going to make a difference and it's going to create those lasting results that we're all striving to get instead of just going in, lifting a weight that, we wouldn't have otherwise known is good for us. Like we need these numbers, and I need these numbers because I love self improvement. And um, with my recent bodybuilding certificate and that education, it's like a whole new playground. I've got new training mechanisms, new periodization approaches, and it's like a brand new game.
Well, we just saw, so you have a tattoo right now on your arm. You got that? What does that stand for?
That means inner strength.
Inner strength. Okay.
And I got that a few years ago.
I didn't notice that the last time we had you on.
That's okay. And it's right by my tricep. And it's actually to help um, create, for me mentally, just to work on my triceps. It was at that time one of those things that I wanted to work on. I wanted better triceps.
I always tell people one of the most underrated body parts. Most people don't understand that. I mean, it's like 75% of the arm. So if you want good arms, you have to do that. So, and I mean, you brought it up. What do you do for arms now? Because yeah, that's one thing that, I mean, all the bros that are listening to this podcast are like, oh, anything arm workouts, they're listening intently. So what does an arm day look like for you?
I will create a program, do chest and biceps. When I want to work on my triceps, I do my back, and it involves lifting. So my periodization is lift heavy and then get my rest in between my heavy sets, 3 to 5 minutes. And then after I'm tired of that, then I'll go to the cables and I'll just I'll just do different hand positions to really target different triceps and really just kind of wear myself out in that respect. But I know that when I do go really hard, I have a designated rest day after.
Yeah. So what are some of the exercises that you do though? Because I mean, like you said, I mean, you can mix up hand movements, which is a big thing. But do you just do like a lot of kickbacks, and then you just do like curls, or like what do you like to incorporate normally in that day?
Okay. Yeah, just different ways of moving my muscles. Sometimes bigger movements, sometimes smaller ones, and it's really important for me to get those smaller muscles, um, especially in my back, because I have a reputation of having a nice back, and that's not something that I want to lose. Um, and yeah, 3 to 4 sets, and I'll usually drop set um, my training, which is easily done on the cable cores or on different machines, and just really get that burning.
Well, and do you do a lot of time under tension in your training as well? Because that's one thing that, I mean, especially when you're doing it with bands, that's one thing that really does come with the territory, I think.
Yes, when I am using bands and I'm not in the gym, it definitely is a high rep. Hold that, um, hold those contractions like when I can, where I can. Um, yeah, no, it's good. I feel like, through the opening and the closing of gyms, you can only go with a personal trainer, like so many restrictions. Um, just the last one is when I actually got into the gym, and that's where I'm like, okay, like lift heavy, get those weights in. And one of my favorite warm ups are barbell complexes. And I just feel like, if I'm like pressed for time,
I've never heard of barbell complexes. What are those?
these are really fun. So you grab a weight and you have 5 to 7 different exercises. So you grab your barbell and like, so for me, my first set will be with 40 pound uh, barbell. So I'll do squats, 6 to 8 squats, and then you do squat to press, put behind your head, do your good mornings again, 6 to 8 reps. What else do we do? Come over so that I'll do my bicep curls with those 6 to 8 reps and deadlifts.
You're curling 40 pounds?
Yeah.
That's pretty dang good. I do gotta say that. So yeah.
So then we got our deadlifts and we got our, thank you. And we got our bent over rows. And then you just rest for a couple minutes and you do that again. So according to textbook, that's equivalent to like a bodybuilder's way of doing cardio. Ryan, please can you go try it out?
I will go try it out and I'll let you know. I might even film it too and let you know because that does sound interesting. So I'll have that written down when I'm editing this. I'll write down all the things then and show you. And one of the things that a lot of bodybuilders do struggle with, is that post-show blues. But for you, being that you're in pageants as well, you sort of somewhat have to maintain, a reasonable look year round. Whereas most bodybuilders they can put on like the 20 pounds in the off season to just be ready to put on size. But how do you deal with that mentally, knowing that like you do have to keep yourself in a somewhat decent amount of shape year round because like you said, like whenever you become like a Miss Calgary or Miss Southern Alberta, like you have a reputation to maintain. It's a struggle for a lot of people like that because you do have to maintain a certain look, it seems.
Oh, I love that. Okay, so I like the attention first and foremost. I like it. And I like knowing that people can look at me day after day and be like, okay, that's a sustainable look. It doesn't always have to be so extreme. It's manageable. Consistency is what's going to keep it. And I think that's really important to demonstrate that walking around. I love the way that I look, and that itself is a mind game on its own. So I really do feel after any competition to really reflect back. We get lots of feedback now through the internet and social media. Like reflect back. Okay, what did I do good? What did I love about this? And then, okay, what could I have done better? Instead of going to the straight to what do I need to work on? It's like, well, no, you need a balance. Not everything is wrong. And I think a lot of people go to that, like unless you're winning like first place, maybe even so, like unless you're going to be getting first place and awarded and given all this cash, doesn't happen. Um, our first inclination is to be like, okay, what could I have done better? It's like, no, it should be what was really good about this. Like, what did I learn? Yeah, going into my last pageant, right? I wanted the experience because every step forward is a step in the right direction, to what's next, especially. But yeah, I love the way that I feel after my exercise. So there's no reason for me to take it out of my day to day routine. It's because I feel better, and I know that when I'm taking care of myself, I can take care of the other things that matter to me. Be at my best.
Absolutely. And like you mentioned, you're running on a health and fitness platform for when you're doing your pageants. Where would you like to see that reach, or where would you like to use your influence to in order to benefit? What are some goals that you'd have to achieve when it comes to just spreading that awareness?
Seeing more women want to lift heavy without a fear, without the fear. I would love to see more women be confident and comfortable in wanting to make those changes to feel good about themselves. Uh, this is a public podcast, Ryan, but the whole um, you know, anything goes body image, I don't feel is sustainable in today's society because not taking care of ourselves and being comfortable with that is going to cost us in the long run.
I've always said it's great that people have that mentality, but look at them again when they're like 50 or 60 years old. And unfortunately, that's just unfortunately that's the case. I mean, it's great if you have a healthy body image of yourself, even if you are very overweight, good for you, but it's just when it comes to promoting that and saying like everyone should look like that or like everyone could look like, it's like that's when I draw the line where I'm like, okay, just it's great that you have that healthy image for you and more power to you, but yeah, I mean, yeah, I totally agree with you where it's like, yeah. And what do you think are some ways that you could do that other than just spreading that sort of image? What do you think are some like that individual people could do to maybe help get more people into the gym and help out? What do you think like that just the individual person could do to just maybe just impact? Because for me, it's all about just impacting one person's life. If I can just do that for one person, that's my job's finished.
Oh, I love that. Good job. And it would be a good job, Ryan. Just leading by example, honestly. Um, when it comes to pageantry and bodybuilding, fitness model, like it's important to have a positive attitude and it's important to be optimistic. And it's important to make time out of your day. Say someone's listening and they don't know how to integrate a schedule. Let's emphasize the fact that you deserve that time out of your day for you. Half an hour, 45 minutes, like you deserve that. And give yourself permission to change, to want to be better, you know?
Oh, 100%. And you talk about positivity, but like, let's be honest, like you were talking about, like with this last weekend, there are going to be times when you're not feeling good. And you just, even if, your body just might be telling you, like, hey, I don't want to go to the gym today. It's just not. And for anyone who's said on the podcast, there's been a couple of them that have said, like, I've never had those days. I just roll with it because I don't want to call them a liar on the podcast. But it's like, let's be honest, everyone has had days like that, no matter where you're at. How do you deal with those days? Because I feel that, especially when people are getting started working out, that one day is the day that makes or breaks really their journey because it can contribute to a downward spiral. And especially if you're getting started, maybe let's say after going to the gym for like 4 days a week or 3 days a week, you have that one day where you're just like, oh, I really just don't want to go, and you're scheduled to go. You skip that day, and all of a sudden next thing you know, you might be skipping the next day and the next day. So what advice do you have for people just dealing with that effect? Because I feel that probably contributes to the vast majority of the drop-offs of people just quitting their journeys.
Oh, know your why. And not even just why are you doing something to change? Why do you need this day off? Do you need to go to the gym today? Again, it comes back to giving ourselves permission for doing the things that we need to do to take care of ourselves. We have people in society that want to work out 7 days a week. Well, let's acknowledge the fact that rest is part of the growth. Recovery is part of getting stronger. So I would have to say why. Like, understand why it is. Do you need a day off because your body is literally exhausted? Or is it because you're feeling uh
Down, or you just
yeah, not
ideal, yeah.
motivated? Yeah, but recognizing like it is about consistency. And yeah, we have to be nice to ourselves because no one's gonna do that for us.
Unfortunately, this is a lifestyle where it's not going to change overnight. You're not going to just see those results. So it does take a lot of patience, which is a virtue that I think, especially with all the social media, people are lacking in these days. So it does take some time, everyone. But trust me, the results in the end are much worth the wait, especially if you stick with it. But I mean, like you said, you're doing so when it comes to these virtual competitions, how do they really do it? Do they just like give you a certain amount of time to do your routine and then they just look at someone else, or do they have you like all connected on one screen together? I'm just fascinated like how that works out.
Okay. For pageantry, it was video submission. You want to you've got
Well,
different
first of all, that's great because you can mess up as many times as you want then, and you can basically just get your perfect routine down then, really. Yeah.
yeah, but then you're also jeopardizing your time because then you're looking for perfection. So sometimes, yeah, it does involve confidence, confidence building on practice. But yes, we have different segments, and then you submit those different segments. So resort wear, evening gown. A lot of my setup involves clearing out my living room, which takes all day, and then to put it all back, right? But it's worth it. Our next competition for the local pageant is going to be just that again, submissions within a time frame, and rightfully so because you don't want to keep the judges, you don't want to get anyone bored. With the fitness competition, it was everyone was on a screen.
No, and that's yeah. I've just always been fascinated because the last time you were on, you were talking about how you're about to do a virtual show, and I was like, God, I wonder how those work. And then I forgot to ask you. But I mean, if we were to talk, I mean, I shouldn't say if when we talk to you a year from now, and where would you like to be at just in your overall health and fitness journey? Where would you like to be at just in your overall life? What are some goals that you'd like to have achieved?
Personal goals involve establishing my personal training business more, and um, it looks like being the best that I can be, working with a variety of clients from the bodybuilders, all the way, with the people who want to start out a new training regime. Um, and I'll be in Florida next year in July. We were supposed to go June this year. But yeah, pageantry is something that I love doing. And I feel too, with the loss of my mother, I feel like every time I'm doing a pageant, I feel more connected with what her and I developed as I was growing up. I feel, she's with me during all these types of competitions because she was when I was growing up. She was always with me. She was my biggest cheerleader, and I feel her with me when I'm about to apply myself and do something, that might have a little bit of fear to it. And I think it's really important to not be afraid of those feelings.
Oh, absolutely, and it's great that you feel that presence when you're on stage, and yeah, it is great. And is there anyone that you'd like to give a shout out to before we wrap things up?
Um, Shout out just to all my friends and my family and my supporters. I've got some amazing clients that I get to work with uh, week after week. I'd like to thank Provida Energy Tea for always being um, huge contributor to my emotional and mental state. Uh, they're definitely part of the cheerleading team.
Okay, so I was wondering, so what makes that tea more special than any other tea that you've had? Like, what do they have in it? Is it a good flavor? What differentiates them?
It's a healthy beverage and it has sustainable packaging. They are a company that has an amazing backstory. So, start off with their backstory and easy. This team is easy to fall in love with. But when it comes to their tea, again, it's healthy. It's got organic honey. It's natural and it doesn't contain uh, artificial sugar. And yeah, it's an energy tea that's refreshing. And what makes it also different is that it has a screw on tap. It's got some caffeine in it, and you can reuse this package. This ice packs, which I do for my lunches.
That works. And I'm gonna be honest, being an American, I've never drank tea in my life. I think I drank it once when I was a little kid, but I've never. I mean, I have no interest in. I mean, I don't even drink coffee because if I'm this energetic without coffee, if I were to drink coffee, it's bad things are gonna happen. My head would probably blow up or something like that. But yeah, I have a few friends that drink tea, and I always just tell them what we're not British, basically. So that's my response when they do it. But no, yeah. And for anyone, I mean, I have had an Arnold Palmer once though, and that's tea mixed with other things. So hey, that's amazing too that you're able to have that too as well. And you know I was gonna ask this, and I totally forgot about it, so I gotta ask it now as we're getting closer to wrapping things up. When it comes to nutrition, what are some little things that you think everyone could work on individually in their life? Because unfortunately, this is a lifestyle thing where everyone's lifestyle is different. I mean, every individual client that you have is going to have different nutritional needs and what they can do. But just in a general sense, what do you think are just some basic things that us as a population could do to slowly, maybe change things up a little bit and become a little bit more healthier as time goes on?
Being aware of what you're eating, tracking what you're eating, and portion. I hate to use that word control, but portion control. And eat, eat for purpose. Even if that purpose is to go out, enjoy yourself with friends and family, and overindulge. Like, know what you're doing and why. Um, absolutely. But track. I feel it's really important to track what you're eating because it could be something simple as taking, a couple hundred calories out of your diet just to get that goal of weight loss, and fluctuation of things. So track your food. It sounds like a tall order, but we've got apps that will support our goals, and you're really just entering what you're eating. So you're writing it down in your phone. And another positive point of tracking your food on an app is, or just, excuse me, another positive point of knowing what you're eating is that it becomes easier to know what you're eating. Meal prepping, it's always going to be there. You're never guessing. You actually save time because you know what your next meal is going to be. It saves frustration.
I mean, hey, I'm one of those people too, where with my busyness, I've tried to track, and I will actually try to work on it more because all of my guests that I've had on really talk about tracking too. And I mean, like you said, I mean, as soon as people hear that, there's like, oh, that just sounds like way too much work. But with the apps and stuff like that, I've heard that it does make things a lot easier. And I'll leave links down below to apps and stuff like that for people if they want to use, because it is really important. But again, Catherine, I cannot thank you enough for coming back on and sharing your journey. And I honestly think, I mean, you're going to do great. I mean, it's been great talking to you again. Is there anything else that you'd like to say before we wrap it up?
I'm just really grateful that we had an opportunity to connect again, Ryan. Thanks for you for being so supportive for female bodybuilding. Um, I just
And can I be honest too? Honestly, it was a fluke because I just had one. I was like, oh, I should probably have a health and fitness person on because I was into health and fitness too, and I had one person on, and then it sort of stuck. And I was like, oh, and then I realized how much harder this sport is for females than it is for males. And plus, when males talk, it's basically like this: "What's up, bro? How much can you lift?" And then that's the end of the entire conversation. So literally, I happened upon this category in this sport really by accident, where I had one guest on and turned out well. So then I had another one on, and that sort of worked out because I wasn't even that familiar with female bodybuilding before I really started this podcast. So it's a happy little accident, as I like to call it.
I love that.
Absolutely.
Good job.
Well, again, you guys, we cannot thank Catherine enough, and I'll leave a link to her Instagram page, and everyone go and check her out. And again, you will be inspired to, get in shape and get off that couch and stop eating those Twinkies. But again, Catherine, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome, and thank you too, Ryan.
Absolutely. Well, everyone, this is Ryan Johnson, DD on the spot, signing off. Have a great day, everyone.